Oh man, this is the game I was looking forward to the most about
Yep.
talking about. Utah getting beat up by Arizona. You hear all the chatter on Twitter about how Utah begrudgingly went to the Big 12 to come in, buy their time till the Big 10 calls. Um, Talk about they're going to run the conference because they have a couple of nice Rose Bowl losses on their resume. And then turns out they're not even the best team coming over from the Pac 12. Unbelievable stuff. I saw somebody talking about Cam Rising, calling him Scam Rising. That's the best thing I've seen. The hate Twitter lap I was doing last late, very late, and early this morning um, gave me so much joy. Uh, and I gave them a very favorable analogy a couple of weeks ago where I talked about them being like Denver Broncos fans where you get overlooked for so long, or not Denver Broncos fans. Denver Broncos stink. The Denver Nuggets where you were like banging the table like, no, Nikola Jokic is actually awesome. And then he finally gets his flowers, finally gets starts winning MVPs. Then you're like, no, this is actually a championship caliber team if everybody just stays healthy and stays on two legs, and then everybody stays on their two legs and they win a championship. But that's the part, and so I gave them the benefit of the doubt. You got to win the championship to get those kind of accolades, and I know Cam Rising. Cam Rising also, I just got to say this. He's got to be the number one quarterback of all time as far as game time decisions. It was a game time decision basically the first month of the season last year. He suited up. He was warming up in the Florida game at the start of the season. He didn't play a single snap last year. Then he runs into a cooler in the Baylor game. And then ever since then, it's been, well, it's a game time decision. He suited up last night. And then they still threw Isaac Wilson out to the Wolves time in and time out. I mean, what are we talking about here? Cam Rising gets no more benefit of the doubt for me. Utah gets no more benefit of the doubt. That was a tough loss for a team that's done a who's got a fan base that's done a lot of talking and talking down on the beloved Big 12 conference.
Yeah, and their fan base is quick to turn on just their own quick too. I mean, I saw some tough, as you said, Brandon, some tough conversations just at their own players. So kind of scary stuff right there. I want to give you Arizona a lot of credit. I didn't like their odds going into this game. I just haven't seen much of them on the road. They proved me wrong. And Fafita hung in there in the pocket. I think the most defining moment for me, Utah scores early in the fourth quarter. I think the crowd's like, okay, we're going to stop, get Isaac Wilson the ball back. We can do something with it. And Fafita just chucked a couple of bombs down the field. And that, the big one to Burnett for 35 for the touchdown. I mean, that was, it felt like ball game, weirdly. Like, I thought, if Utah can keep them to 16, it's done. Or I thought they could score one more time. And once he hit that ball, I thought, I think it's done. Their defense was great. Um, Maybe Utah's offense just a little bit inept compared to years past. That remains to be seen. I won't judge them fully on one game. But yeah, it does feel good. And I know Big 12 fan bases have had a good time kind of uniting as a front going after the Utah fan base, considering how much maybe they've chatted a little bit. They're still a good football team, Brandon. They're still top 20 for a reason. I still think they could end up with double figure wins. It wouldn't shock me if they're in the conference championship game. But guess what? Their buffer zone's gone. It is no longer existent for Utah. They lose one more time. I don't think a two-loss team will make the Big 12 championship game. I'd be actually shocked at this juncture. And I look at their schedule, it's still pretty favorable considering. I mean, their road games, Brandon, not easy, but at Arizona State, at Houston, at Colorado, at UCF, home games against TCU, BYU, Iowa State. Those three home games are actually all rather tricky. Each
Yeah,
and every one of them, considering the different styles of those teams. But yeah, that buffer zone they wanted, it is gone. And we'll see how many bids Big 12 gets. I'm still hoping they can be a two bid league, maybe three if we're going nuts, but I'm going to guess two at most. You lose twice, I just don't see it. I think you have to make a conference championship game to be viewed as net large.
I think so too. Yeah, one loss. One loss team. I guess in Utah's defense here, I think you go to the committee and plead, and this is all pending if Cam Rising ever plays football again, which I'm not sure of. I'm not sure he comes back this year. I saw the same, rigmarole last year. So he might. But if he comes back and he plays great and they win all their games, um, I think yeah, and don't win the Big 12 championship game. Because now they don't have that tiebreaker with Arizona. And refresh my memory, who did Arizona? Oh, Arizona lost to Kansas State. So there's a
Correct.
a, a realm where if Kansas State wins out and then Arizona wins out, Utah can still go 11-1 and not make the conference championship. I think that's still a very solid case, especially when you can go to the committee and be like, our quarterback was injured. Evidently, you guys view that very heavily, whether or not you have your starting quarterback or not, or maybe that's just an ACC thing. Didn't seem to much matter when Ohio State was on the third quarterback, but I think that's a very good case that you can make. Uh, Again, I don't think that Kansas State and Arizona will necessarily run the table the rest of the way, but there's a path for it.
There is, but it's a path that it has a few more vines in there, a few more alligators in there, sharks, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to throw out there. But for them, it's more tough. But for Arizona, yeah, they have that loss against Kansas State, Brandon. But I think they reminded people, and they were going through the graphics during the game, all these players that decided to come back to Arizona despite their coach leaving.
That's a
This
good
seems
deal.
like a group that is very unified, likes being together on and off the field. I'm not saying it'll even happen going into next year. I know NIL has just made things chaos. And we have UNLV quarterbacks quitting, and then their backups seem to be better than them, which is very funny. But I mean, Arizona's a tough team. And it might be just how good they are, but it shows anything can happen. I mean, the way Kansas State beat Arizona, I thought, K State, Brandon's prediction of an undefeated season looks pretty good, and then they go to BYU and lose. Utah looked like a cream of the crop team in the conference. They look pretty weak on Saturday night at home. Anything can happen. I I've said that 20 times already, but I will continue to harp on it because it's true. It's what makes this conference so enthralling.